Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Jared at 3Cs. Very excited. We've got a 2024 Beta 300 RX. Finally have one that I can give you guys a review on. The other three have already come and gone so quickly. I didn't have a chance to do any kind of after work reviews. I would call the customers as soon as they came in and take them home. So with that being said, very excited. And in the background we have a 2023 300 Race Edition. So yes, it is a year older. This is a 2024. But I really wanted to give you guys some comparisons because I think the majority of my buyer, I shouldn't say that, I would say maybe a third of my buyer should be considering this RX over the Race Edition. So let's kind of go into the features of this and we'll kind of talk about comparisons. I did have one of these back in 2021. I had one for a short period of time. And what's cool about the RX is it's stripped down. There's really not a lot to it as far as gadgets and lights. There's no lights. So we've got the number plate. And if we look here, we have just the kill switch and the start button. So kill on the handlebar, super clean. We come around this way, you'll see there's no display. There's only two electrical connectors in there. And then we get the start button on this side, fires right up. And then from brake here, this model does come with the handguards, just like the Race Edition does. I can zoom out a little bit here. They do still have the dual ignition map. So when the bike starts, you'll see the light flick from one side to the other. Does retain the same exact stock gas tank as the race model. It's a 2.5 gallon tank, so you can swap them back and forth. And we'll kind of go into more gas tank stuff here in a minute on that. What's cool with the race, or with this model, the RX, is it already comes with an aftermarket hose kit. So there's no thermostat on this bike. You'll see that this is capped off where it would bypass that, and the Race Edition will show that here in a minute. So again, if we were doing some racing, we would always consider these kits. Right away, and that's like a $250 item now currently, so that's pretty exciting. And with the Beta motors, it's a different bore and stroke compared to the Race Edition. This is more similar to their older 300s, but same features here. We have the adjustable power valve, and again we have some videos on our channel showing how to adjust that and when or why you would adjust it. And the oil change process is very easy on the Beta. Fill is here, drain bolts right here. It's a 13 mil. You can get to it very easily. I was just about to say you take the skid plate off to do. You don't have to, but this does not come with a skid plate. So the RX model, there's no skid plate with the bike. It does come with this red stand. So even though it's on this big Beta mat, that's what I keep here at the shop, this stand does come with this model because there's no kickstand, and we'll get to that here in a minute. And it does have a 19-inch rear rim, which is the only model in Beta's lineup currently. Obviously they have that 450 in the works they're coming out with. We do not have one yet. We have ridden one in California. We got to ride it last fall. Again, I got a video on our channel of me riding that thing. And while we're on this side of the bike, I will make note there is no steering stem lock on this bike at all. So there's nothing on this side. So they shaved that clean off the frame. And you'll see the radiators. Let's look at those in the front. Kind of coming all the way down, nice big radiators. And what's interesting about this RX model is that it still has the 2023 radiators compared to the 2024 RR model. And what bike did I just do a review on? Oh, a standard 300 RR for 2024. I just did a video on that a couple days ago. Then it has an all new radiator. So if you turn this, you can kind of see we could possibly hit, sorry, I'm trying to get the camera to adjust here. If we took this nut out to make the turning radius sharper, we could possibly hit there. Obviously the motocross guys, they're not turning, they're just laying the bike over. So maybe that's why I didn't get the updated or changed radiators. It's going to stay that way. But maybe for some of my woods guys, that might be not a bummer, but just not updated. And then on this side, you'll notice there's no more kickstand notch at all. So there's not even the loop here to put the bolt on. So there's no kickstand. Ooh, they did leave this knuckle. That's funny, they left this knuckle on here, but they took the one off down here to actually hold the kickstand. And it's different, it's funny. This only has an off and an on for the fuel petcock. On all of my Race Edition models, I can flick this all the way over here and we'd have reserve. So that's different. I did figure that out the other day. Here's our standard choke. It's easy to get to, up and down. And gear shifters here. I don't know what speed this is. I need to look. They've always been a 6-speed. This might be a 5. And as your Beta dealer of choice, I should know that kind of thing. What's cool with this model is it does have all like the red anodized stuff, and it has a dual composite rear sprocket on here. So it's a steel outer with an aluminum inner. and it's got the Race Edition foot peg. So this is very similar to the Race Edition. The standard model has just a regular cast foot peg, and it's got like the black shifter. So they did a really good job with the RX to make it look really good. And it also has that blue front fender on the front of it there. So overall, the looks on the RX are to die for. They're so cool looking. And then you look up on here, there is no taillight. And they even like shaved the knuckles on the back of this to hold your light. So if you're like, oh, I'm gonna buy an RX and make it have headlights, you can. Beta does actually have a kit to do that, but the fender doesn't accept the back bolts anyway. That's just a note out loud. I'm talking about that stuff. So you can put a light package on the RX if you want to. And so now this will let me do some comparisons to the RR line, right? So here is that steering stem lock. It's in the frame. They removed that. If you look down here, this is that thermostat housing. It's in the, I can't get my hand in there, but that's the thermostat housing deep inside of there. You can kind of see it coming out of the cylinder head there. And this is what was blocked off on the RX. There's no skid plate. This has a skid plate. Now, to be 100% fair, a lot of us remove the skid plate right away. We all go with like the linkage protection ones typically. So yes, it comes with a skid plate. Maybe not so much of an upgraded feature on this one. And then we'll look at the kickstand. So this is that knuckle that they shaved clean off the frame there. So you can kind of see how that's on there. And then this is that rear light. And it has those two bolts that go right here. That's what I was talking about being shaved off on that fender. And then if we look up here, this is all of our headlight and all of our controls on the RE and the standard RR model. So the standard block here, display, and then our controls. So video isn't really about the Race Edition model. We're talking about that one, but that's a big difference. There's 8 pounds difference. They're claiming this is 220. No, 220 and 228. So 8 more pounds on the Race Edition models. And again, I am comparing this to a 2023. I do not have a 2024 yet. They haven't released them yet. I know a lot of people have been calling me and emailing me like, hey, what's the price on a 2024 Race Edition? I'm like, well, I don't know yet. So that's how we keep bringing in the leftover 23s. They always sell. We do a ton of 300s. So that's a walk around of the new RX. And let's start talking about why I would buy this or why I would buy that one. So this bike has a seat height of 37 inches. So we're getting really tall with this bike. For motocross guys, that's fine. They're just bouncing in and out of ruts, where that's like half an inch shorter. It's like 36.6, and then the ground clearance is a little bit less over there. So same size tire, even though the rim is bigger, the suspension is just taller on the RX model. So if you look at like the spring chart on the Beta website, the RX has its own springs. So there's definitely a longer fork to it for the racing, for motocross stuff. So it's going to be a much stiffer fork. So for my customers that think they're going to buy an RX model and go casually trail ride it, you're wrong. I had one. I raced a lot of 450s back in the day, RMZs, KXs, a couple Hondas in there. They were stiff bikes in the woods, and that's what this bike felt like right out of the box. So keep in mind, it's going to be a much stiffer suspension, and the power hits really hard on the RX. In my opinion, riding one and having one, I felt like that was a super potent motor. And if you're trail riding or racing a hare scramble all day, right out of the box, that might be kind of difficult. So keep that in mind. But then let's also talk about why I would buy this. And the reason why I would start with an RX when we're building our GNCC bikes or our hare scramble bikes is that it's $1,000 less than the Race Edition. So that's a lot of money to play with. So we could buy this bike at $93.99. Those are $10,399. I should also note that that's probably going to go up in price by $200 next year. So if I was guessing 2024 price, probably going to say a $1,200 difference. So that's a pretty big difference in price. So a lot of guys can say, well, I can buy some softer springs and kind of detune the power a little bit. Maybe not detune it, but you can play with that power valve adjuster there. That really does make a big difference. Maybe you can keep it on the rain mode. Maybe that'll help you out a little bit. And this has those coolant hoses. So we're saving $1,200 on the purchase. Then we're going to save another $250 because it already has the hoses on it. And a lot of guys are already going to buy a different skid plate. So that skid plate's immediately going to come off anyway. So you're not really saving anything with that because you're going to buy a skid plate to throw on this thing, it's the same bolt pattern. We would just do a TM Designs with the linkage protection on it. And I really don't have any problem running a 19-inch rear tire. Obviously a little bit less sidewall, but I am not a pro, and I think I would be just fine running a 19 versus the 18. So that's my reasons for buying this up front. I'm going to save $1,200. I can buy the other springs. I can make the power hit softer, and it's already got the coolant hoses on it. Oh, you know what it also has is it has the race wire loom kit already. So that alone is another $200 when you're buying the race harnesses. So we take all of our bikes, and one of the first things we do is strip all that wiring off of it. We put those kits on there. So again, there's another $200. So you have a huge head start with this bike. We could basically buy a gas tank, some suspension springs, maybe your tire of choice, but I really don't think this is a bad tire to practice on or get comfortable with. It's maybe a little bit stiff for doing an off-road race, but I still think you could live with that until it's tired or bald. So those are some huge reasons why I would buy that. And then let's talk about why this has always been the biggest seller in the showroom. This bike does it all. It's just so comfortable to ride. The suspension is going to be softer than the RX over here. So that's a big thing for us trail riders, is we don't want something that's beating us up the whole time. And I'll even argue that I think that this is kind of stiff. I enjoy the regular RR suspension. So I like the standard sock stuff more than I do this because I am a B-class warrior. I race on the weekends, I work all week. I'm tired halfway through the race. I don't need KYB stuff, it's just too stiff. So that's my little rant on that for people that are like, oh, have to have it? Sure. If you love it, please buy it. That's why they make it. Good stuff. So this, they both have electric start. Does this have the kickstart? Can we still do? Okay, that's super important, being able to add the kickstart still. So you gotta watch it. Some of those other brands are shaving this knuckle right off the case. And I don't know how much longer Beta is gonna show this or have this for that kickstart kit. So anytime we're building an off-road bike, if we're gonna go ride in those woods over there and go like 12 miles deep, we want a backup Kickstarter. I think it's super important to have. If your battery dies, starter solenoid, anything electrical happens, you got a backup kicker to get you home on the two-stroke. So we've done so well with this model. The reserve is nice on this petcock, and we'll get more time on that to see, because it doesn't have reserve, what we're missing. Like how quickly does the fuel run out. I should pull that petcock out of that gas tank later and kind of play with that a little bit. So huge seller for us. I don't think the sales are going to decline on this, because if you're just a trail rider, a weekend warrior, I still think you need to buy the RR Race Edition. But if you're a guy that's going GNCC racing and that's your only goal, you don't care about headlights, you don't care about being a little bit softer, a little bit shorter to the ground, and you just want to go fast in the woods, we can give you a huge head start with this RX model because of all the stuff that it already comes with. So hopefully that wasn't too long. I think it's probably like 20-minute long video, but a lot of cool stuff packed in there. We've been doing beta since 2011, so I get really excited about it. I think it's going to start raining here any second. So thank you guys for watching. I am Jared from 3C's Recreation. Please consider subscribing to our channel. We do a ton of fun beta content. I do believe we're going to keep one of these RXs around. And I have a local guy that has his pro card. He might do some riding for us. So we might go to TV Lane and ride this thing. So thank you guys for watching. Enjoy the ride, and we'll see you soon.